How's it going, folks? So the band Asterise recently released a new single here called Wonderland, and this song is featuring some great vocalists. So I'm looking forward to checking this out. And I mean, without further ado, let's just jump on in and give it a listen. Rangers, go.
When the stars hang down, the guiding mighty echoes of the wondrous land. Through the raging seas, with the courage as our guide, the mighty unknown warrior living my dream. Stars in the dim pathway, lighting every strand. Echoes travel legend.
Interesting. I like what the song was going for. Like, I like the vibe and stuff like that. The little elements of kind of the symphonic sort of little fantasy, almost whimsical little tunes going in there was really nice. It kind of helps breathe life into the song and the the intent, for the listener to kind of envision this fantasy wonderland, if you will. So I like those little touches. Like I said, it lends itself to the theme of the song and things like that. But it's interesting the way the song went. It has quite extended sort of verses, and then you get the chorus, and then you already kind of just get the bridge right after that, and then a final chorus, and then a little instrumental there for the ending. So it was just an interesting layout to the song, but ultimately it feels like the song was just kind of cobbled together. It feels like it lacks focus to a degree, and so it just never fully lands. In my opinion, and it's over before it feels like it even really began. If that makes any sense. And so, I mean, it's like 3 minutes and 40 seconds, so it's like a decent length. It's a pretty brisk. It's not like the longest song, of course, because anything other than 4 minutes to me is quite brisk. It's like should be to the point. But here in this song, it just, again, it's over before it feels like it even begins. And that's why I kind of lean toward saying that it just feels cobbled together. It doesn't really have that focus. It just never really gets the chance to pop or to really kind of grab you or anything. And part of the thing, too, I feel like, is that the mix, isn't quite there. The production sort of lacks polish. And in this case, it feels like it's a detriment to the song, especially with the vocals. Like, the vocals in particular just feel like they weren't properly mixed in there. It just doesn't do the vocals any favors. It feels like the vocals are almost coming in from the background. They sound a bit muddy. As far as the production goes, like the vocals don't sound like clean and crisp. So the vocalists themselves, they don't really get a chance to shine, because, again, it just sounds a bit muddy, the incorporation of the vocals into the mix and stuff like that. So it just does the vocalists a bit of a disservice here. They just don't really get to shine. And the verses, the verses just don't quite land either. That just sounds a bit all over the place, and I just wasn't really jiving with those verses. They're just kind of there, and then swapping between the vocalists, and it's a bit jagged in there. And then you get the chorus, which I like the melody in the chorus. It's nice. Again, the vocals could be a bit stronger in the mix or in the production or whatnot. But the melody is there, and then you kind of get the bridge. I like that vocal part there in the bridge. Although it's funny because it's like a lyric video, but there's vocals there in the bridge, but the lyrics don't populate, in the video. So I thought that was a little bit strange. The guitar solo and stuff there in the bridge was pretty good. The guitar sounds pretty good in the mix for the most part, but there's even other spots, like in the verses and whatnot, with just kind of the guitar strumming going along. It just sounds a bit fuzzy, or again, just muddy. That's just ultimately, like, as far as the mix or production goes, like, muddy is kind of the best word I can come up with, because it all just feels a bit muddy or muffled even. But the instrumentals in the bridge, there's a nice little kind of drum section there in the bridge that sounded pretty good. But that's another thing throughout the song. The drums just sounded a bit odd in the mix. And it's a song, it feels like this is like a demo. It feels like this is a proof of concept sort of thing that needs additional refinement, before the final track is released. Because here it just feels like it's unfinished almost, and it just needs that fine tuning. And so ultimately I'm left a bit underwhelmed. Again, that proof of concept aspect, I like the intent, again, that fantasy aspect. There's some nice little melodies there with the music kind of selling the theme of the song. And then the vocal melody and the chorus was nice, and there was elements there that work, but I really think the verses really need a lot of refinement in there, as opposed to them just kind of being there. There's not much to really grab the listener there in the verses. And just the overall mix, especially with the vocals in there, really, really needs to be fine-tuned. And just even the structure of the song is a bit odd. So, yeah, it just feels like this is a song that is in a very unrefined form. And again, would serve as like a demo. Like, hey, this is kind of what we got, and proof of concept sort of thing, and you kind of build upon it from there. But instead of like building upon it or refining it, they just released it. So to me, that just kind of does a disservice to all the elements of the song and the song itself, because it just feels unfinished, ultimately. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Let me know, folks, in the comments down below, what do you think of this song? What are your thoughts on this song? Let's discuss it. And thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll catch you next time. Ranger out.